Good morning. Day 7 of the Donald Trump criminal trial, verification of records to interfere with the 2016 election. We are in week 2. Of course, there was no court on Wednesday. Court resumed this morning. It will be starting shortly. We do these summaries every morning before trial starts, and then at the end of each and every day at trial, we then give a recap and a summary of everything that took place that day. So what we are expecting to happen today, Justice Merchan has not yet ruled on the hearing regarding the application for contempt, or the contempt motion that was filed by the prosecution for Donald Trump's fairly consistent violations of the gag order. We would expect that to be dropping soon. I'll get your take on that, Karen. Do we think that drops right away in the morning? Currently, Justice Merchan has reserved ruling. And then I think we're going to get back underway with David Pecker, who's the prosecution's first witness, former leader of a company called AMI, which was the parent company of the National Enquirer. We got a lot of testimony from David Pecker about his relationship with Donald Trump that dated back many decades, how that relationship led to a deal between David Pecker and Donald Trump leading up to the 2016 election, which began as David Pecker basically publishing through the National Enquirer all of these bad stories on all of Donald Trump's political opponents, quite literally fake news. Donald Trump would feed to David Pecker either directly or through Michael Cohen or others, stories that were just total fabrications against Trump's political opponents in the Republican primary, and then when he ran against Hillary Clinton. And then the scheme evolved to not just a catch and publish or fabricate bad stories, but to actually catch these stories, affirmatively act like sleuths or detectives for Donald Trump, to find people who Donald Trump may have had sex with, or Donald Trump wronged, or people who wanted to get out stories of Donald Trump in connection with the 2016 election or leading up to it, find them because the Trump organization was small and didn't have the resources, as Pecker testified, and then actually kill the stories, not publish them before the 2016 election, or perhaps not publish them indefinitely, and to pay off people like Karen McDougal, who Donald Trump had an affair with, or a former doorman at Trump Tower, whose story turned out not to be true, but nonetheless to buy out this bad story. And Pecker said, "No, look, we did it specifically to influence the 2016 election. That's why we did it. A lot of this catch and kill stuff didn't benefit us. It's the exact opposite of our business model. We're a publisher. We're supposed to publish the stories, not kill the stories. And so we did it to benefit Trump as part of a meeting, as part of a plan, as part of a criminal conspiracy, as part of a deal that we made." So I think we expect more testimony on that today. Karen, I'll get your take on it. Of course, as we continue, just everybody knows, don't worry, you're going to hear from Karen. She gives the full analysis. I'm the hype person. I will wait until the audience grows while we give kind of some of the summary right here. We keep a handy dandy scorecard each day of the criminal trial. So the last day of court on Tuesday, before there was no court on Wednesday, was trial day 6. Today is going to be trial day 7. So at the end of today, we'll create another scorecard of everything that went down. But just to remind you, on Tuesday, there was the contempt hearing. Justice Merchan said that Donald Trump's lawyer, Todd Blanche, was losing all credibility when Blanche tried to say, look, Donald Trump's working so hard, Your Honor, to comply with the gag order. He's doing everything possible. To which Justice Merchan said, stop it. That's not true. You're losing all credibility. You then had Justice Merchan did not rule on Tuesday on the contempt hearing. Then we had direct examination of David Pecker continued. We had Pecker laying out the deal that I just described, and then you had Donald Trump leaving the courtroom and whining. Interestingly, Karen, last night, Donald Trump's lawyer, Alina Habba, after first making a very weird video directed towards our editor-in-chief of MeidasTouch.com, Ron Filipkowski, where she was like cutting an avocado, and she said, "Ron, I'm cutting an avocado for you, Ron. Look at me cut an avocado." It's like very, very strange. Why are you cutting an avocado? Why are you making a video for our editor-in-chief? Very, very strange behavior. Anyway, she went on right-wing media where she said, "I think we're going to lose this case. I think we're going to lose it." Here, let's play this clip of her saying
about everything.
Exactly how I felt that day, I think, until it's over and behind us. But I don't have hopes really that high at this moment that the New York courts will do the right thing, that the jury will do the right thing. We're in a blue state, as you know, Greg. And
Karen, want to get your take on what we can expect today. Where are we right now? Would love to hear from you. And by the way, thank you so much. You did the last recap on a train. That was so good. It was so good. Karen, tell us about what we should expect today.
Yeah, that was a little crazy. So today is going to be a very big day because it's the continuation of David Pecker. It's really going to be the meat of his testimony. It's interesting the way prosecutors are taught in the DA's office to do a direct examination of a witness, and David Pecker is no exception, is they do almost like two direct examinations. So you do the first one, you just let them go from start to finish. You try to, as a prosecutor, you try to fade into the background. You don't want it to be about you. You want it to be about the witness. And you want the jury to just trust you and to know that you're just the calm voice in the back asking questions. And you literally, a perfect beginning of a direct examination is, and then what happened? And what happened next? Okay, and then what happened? Because you're not allowed to ask leading questions on direct. You tell the story, and so you'll start with directing your attention to a meeting in Trump Tower in October of 2015. Were you there? Yes, I was. Who else was there? It was Michael Cohen, me, and Donald Trump. What happened next? And that's how you kind of do it. Okay, and then what happened? And then who said what? And you just try to fade into the background and get them to tell the story. And you want the jury riveted on your witness. And what the prosecutor then does after they go from start to finish is they do what we call a double direct, because a lot of these details and a lot of these things are, the jury is hearing it for the first time, and you don't really retain it all. You don't really know the context. So you kind of want to go over it again. And so, although that would be repetitive and not really allowed, so your double direct, that's when you put all the evidence in and you start to interrupt them, and you'll say, okay, I want to direct your attention now to that meeting that you said happened in Trump Tower. Now I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification as People's Exhibit 1. Do you recognize that? Yes, I do. What do you recognize that to be? That's notes that were taken that day, or whatever it is. And that's when you put evidence in, and you have them kind of repeat that part of the story that's important as they're putting the evidence in. And so it's like you get to tell the story twice. And so hopefully that really gets it stuck in the jury's mind and allows them to understand it. And that's why direct exams take a long time in real life. It's very detail oriented too. There's a lot you want to get out. And David Pecker, it's interesting because I don't think people appreciated how significant he was going to be. I think people just thought he was going to paint the picture, paint a roadmap, but he's a co-conspirator in this, and his testimony is crushing. And I think one of the reasons people didn't appreciate how important he would be and how real critical he would be is partly because Donald Trump hasn't attacked him, and certainly didn't attack him leading up to this trial. Donald Trump in some ways went after Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen, and really made everyone feel like, and by everyone I mean all of us who are commentators and the public and the news, really focused on those two individuals and called this hush money. And it was about Stormy Daniels and hush money, really framed this in a certain way. And his attacks on both of them were vitriolic, frankly. But he never really attacked David Pecker or Karen McDougal, for that matter, or the doorman, who's also part of this, which is very, very strange. Why those individuals have been spared his wrath. But regardless, it'll be interesting to see how they cross-examine David Pecker. But David Pecker has a lot more to say today in his direct examination. We're going to go into detail about their friendship, their relationship, about how they knew each other, and they knew each other for a very long time. And people in the courtroom describe the fact that David Pecker still, in some ways, when he talks about Donald Trump, he talks about him reverentially. You know, you can tell he reveres him and looks up to him as he did all these years. Certainly doesn't seem hostile, or doesn't seem like there's any negativity or animosity, which is going to be so powerful to a jury who's like, this isn't someone who hates Donald Trump or has an axe to grind. He also isn't making Trump more involved, or exaggerating it and saying, oh, definitely he was involved in this and not in that. He's being very careful and talking about when Donald Trump directly was involved in things, and then when he went through Michael Cohen. So his testimony is just so powerful in that regard, because he doesn't seem to have an axe to grind. He doesn't seem to have an agenda. There's no animosity. It's just this very powerful telling the facts how they are. And it's also interesting because they had this symbiotic relationship that was very much a part of who they were to each other, where Donald Trump would feed Pecker information about The Apprentice, and that would boost the National Enquirer's ratings. And at the same time, David Pecker would be the eyes and ears listening for Donald Trump, and would pay people off like the doorman or Karen McDougal, who Donald Trump allegedly had this year-long affair with while he was married to Melania. And it seems the overlap, I don't quite understand the overlap. It's, on the one hand, Pecker called him the most eligible bachelor, but on the other hand, I'm pretty sure he was married to Melania, having an affair with Karen McDougal, and then cheated on both of them with his one-night stand with Stormy Daniels. So I don't know, all while having a child during all of this. So I don't know exactly what it was, but as a result, he needed someone. Anyone who engages in that kind of behavior is going to need someone to take care of the mess, right? Like the women who are going to want to be paid off, this sort of catch and kill sort of arrangement and relationship that they had. But then things changed. And that's why David Pecker is so critical, because things changed in 2015, right when Donald Trump declared his presidency. And that's when it wasn't just about catch and kill and the symbiotic relationship. Now it was, we need to go out there, look for stories, and we're going to promote negative stories that help that will help Donald Trump's candidacy. So they'll promote negative stories about his opponents, and then suppress negative stories about Donald Trump and promote positive stories for Donald Trump, like he was the healthiest person ever elected and weird stuff like that. But just, the Ted Cruz, his father was involved in the JFK assassination, or Ben Carson left a sponge in someone's brain during surgery. I mean, just random stuff, and would suppress this information, the negative information about Trump, and because it was about an election, and because they went out and started paying people, that's where it becomes an in-kind donation to a political campaign. And that's where you have to either declare it if you accept that donation, or because otherwise, you run afoul of election laws. And so that's why Pecker is so critical, because he really provides the context that when Donald Trump, his defense, he's going to say, oh, well, I'm a family man. Of course, I didn't want these dalliances that I had to get out, and I didn't want Melania to find out. And so I was protecting Melania. Well, what David Pecker said was, the doorman, yeah, that was a false story. If that had been true, I would have published it after the election. So this was all about the election. And this was all about trying to corruptly interfere with the election. And they also devised a scheme with Stormy Daniels on how to hide the paper trail, so that A, he didn't have to declare the money, and B, no one would find out. And so that's why they cooked the books and falsified the business records. And that's why we're sitting where we are today at this criminal trial. So I think Pecker is just a brilliant witness. He sets the stage, but he also corroborates so much of what Michael Cohen is going to say. And we know that Michael Cohen is flawed as a witness, even though judges have found him to be credible, including Judge Engoron. He's still a flawed witness and needs corroboration. So I think David Pecker provides a lot of that. I'd like to get your perspective, Ben, on what you think the cross-examination of Pecker is going to be. I don't think that clearly Pecker, because they've been around each other for so long and been doing this kind of catch and kill, unsavory checkbook journalism, as he called it, for so long, that I don't know, if I'm Donald Trump, he knows where all the bodies are buried. I don't want to go after him too hard because, I don't know what'll come out, what he knows about Donald Trump. So I think he probably doesn't do that. If I'm his lawyers, what I do is I ask him questions about all the times that he only dealt with Michael Cohen or dealt with people not Donald Trump, to kind of reinforce that none of this is Donald Trump, or some of it's Donald Trump. Because I did glean a little of that from his direct examination, where he was asked questions and he was very careful not to say Trump was there when he wasn't, or not make it worse for Donald Trump than it actually is. He tried to be very honest. And I also think, again, that's very powerful as a prosecutor, because if he were lying, he would make it worse, right? He would make it more, that Donald Trump is more involved than he is. But he didn't do that. He really did kind of what was really just honest and truthful and careful. So he's much more powerful of a witness than I think anyone appreciated or anticipated. But what do you think, Ben? What do you think the cross is going to look like, and what do you think of that?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to really treat him like an adverse witness. I think they're going to say, hey, you testified that you were here for this specific deal. Were there any other meetings that you were actually there, to your point, Karen, where Trump was in the room? Is it true that all of your other encounters were like this? And then I think they keep it actually fairly short, because how damaging Pecker is to them. So there's no need to keep him on the stand, I think, all that long. They're gonna, I think it would be a big mistake strategically if they kept him on for in any time of significance. The more Pecker talks, the more damaging it is for Trump. So the prosecutor's going to want to have him on, tell more of the story. I mean, it will ultimately go to the fact that Donald Trump lies about everything. Donald Trump will lie and say quite literally anything. And Pecker's a good person that basically substantiates that, right? As Donald Trump talks about, this is fake news or that's fake news, things that are sourced appropriately, that have corroborating facts, evidence. For Donald Trump, that's fake news, while Donald Trump's actually generates completely fake stories and put them out through the National Enquirer. And frankly, Trump's doing the exact same thing right now in 2024 as he was doing in 2016, frankly, as he was doing his entire life. Like, remember when Donald Trump was a fake publicist for himself and would just make up stories and call up the press? Like, he is a perennial, lifelong sociopathic, malignant narcissist like this. So, Karen, I'm reminded of, these, you mentioned the types of fake, just totally fake stories that they would create, like Ted Cruz having 5 secret mistresses at the time that this was applicable to Trump. Like Trump was the one who was out there cheating on the person he was cheating on with the person he was cheating on while his wife was pregnant. You go through all of these headlines and different articles that they would put up there. Betrayed by cheating husband. Like, this is what they would say about Cruz while Trump was doing this. This is how sociopathic Trump was. That's Trump with Karen McDougal right here. So at the exact time that Donald Trump was having a deal where he met with Pecker to do this, remember, at the exact same time, Trump would go speak with Pecker, make the deal, and then he would go out and hold the press conference in 2016 where he would say, I had nothing to do with this. Look at what the National Enquirer, they're independent, they're putting this out. And quite literally, Trump was the one doing the stories. Play the clip.
All I did is point out the fact that on the cover of the National Enquirer, there was a picture of him and crazy Lee Harvey Oswald having breakfast. Now, Ted never denied that it was his father. Instead, he said, Donald Trump, I had nothing to do with it. This was a magazine that, frankly, in many respects, should be very respected. They got OJ, they got Edwards, they got this. I mean, if that was the New York Times, they would have gotten Pulitzer Prizes for their reporting. I've always said, why didn't the National Enquirer get the Pulitzer Prize for Edwards and O.J. Simpson and all of these things? But anyway, so they have a picture, an old picture, having breakfast with Lee Harvey Oswald. Now, I'm not saying anything. They said, and here's how the press takes that story. So this had nothing to do with me, except I might have pointed it out, but it had nothing to do with me. I have no control over anything. I might have pointed it out. But they never denied. Did anybody ever deny that it was the father? They're not saying, oh, that wasn't really my father. It's a little hard to do because it looks like him. So here's the story. The press takes that and they say, Donald Trump and his conspiracy theories, he went out and said his father was with Lee Harvey Oswald and he assassinated the president. What did I do?
You quite literally made up the story as part of a deal to interfere with the 2016 election, which evolved to catching and killing bad stories against you. I mean, Karen, as I watch that, it's sickening to me to watch that. Like, and to think that there's still a large part of the country, the United States of America, the United States, that looks at that and likes that. Not from, this isn't a political analysis you and I are doing, but it's objectively as big of a lie as you can have right in our faces. That's why you don't, if you're Trump's team, you don't have Pecker go that long, because all that stuff comes out.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, but just that's what drives me crazy about Trump and his team and his people. You know, Alina Habba does this all the time. You know, today she did it with the bond money, that criticizing in the civil fraud case, they're trying to put up the bond, and there's this whole issue about whether or not the money that's backing the bond is money that Trump can access, or if it's real legitimate money that is securing the bond. And she gets up and she just flat out lies and says that the money can't be used. Okay, that it was a Charles Schwab account and that he can't access it and he can't trade with the money. And she's like, cash is king, you know, it's just cash. What's wrong with that? And, you know, she just gets up and lies and says, you can't use the money. P.S. He could. And so it was like, it's like she just makes up facts and says black is white, red is green. And it's just not true. And just what Donald Trump just did. I mean, that's just their MO. Their MO is they either completely gaslight you by lying and saying that something is not the way we know it to be, which is just shocking. Or the other thing they do, their other MO is I'm rubber, you're glue, whatever you say about me bounces off of me and sticks to you. You know, it's he loves anything anyone says about him. He just turns around and says, no, you know, Alvin Bragg influenced the election or whatever, you know, falsified business records, whatever. Like, he's just crazy. And that's what he does. Those are to me his two hallmarks: flat out lies and then accusing people of the same thing he actually did, just like whatever, just like what you just showed. So it just drives me crazy. It's like, I don't mind people disagreeing on facts, you know, like you can let's talk about whether you think, you know, whatever the issue is, you know, abortion, Israel and Hamas, whatever the issue is, the Supreme Court, presidential immunity. You can have different opinions on these things and disagree, but at least you're disagreeing honestly. when it's based on lies, that just gets under my skin and drives me crazy. So when you show clips like that, I just can't believe it. I don't know, and it happens every day, and every day I have the same reaction, which is I just can't believe it. I just can't believe it's true.
Karen, one other clip I want to show everybody watching this to perhaps preview other witness testimony, because one of the things I think that Donald Trump is going with is that never had sex with Stormy Daniels, never had sex, and this is all made up. Everyone's out to get him, basically, which will be interesting if that's really what he's going to be kind of pushing. Not because the salacious aspects are really what matters in this case. It's a falsification of business records, but if you just start to look like a liar all of the time, the same way Justice Merchan said to Trump's lawyer, you're losing all credibility. And by the way, that was not in front of the jury. That was a hearing when the jury was not in the room. I just think any person who's in that court environment, who's watching that, who's tasked with that as a jury, is going to be like, okay, you are clearly lying about everything. So just to remind everybody, here is an interview with Anderson Cooper from 2018. This is Karen McDougal, who Donald Trump was having a kind of a longer term affair with while Melania was pregnant. And then on the 1 or 2 days that Trump was not with McDougal, that's when Trump met with Stormy and had sex with Stormy that night, cheating on McDougal while he was cheating on Melania with McDougal while Melania had just given birth. So just play this clip of McDougal so people can see what she's like, and test her credibility. Play this clip.
You said you had sex that first time. All these times you saw him, this was an ongoing sexual relationship.
Absolutely.
Can you estimate how many times you actually saw him?
I can tell you we saw each other a minimum 5 times a month, up to bigger numbers per month. So
Over the course of how long?
So we were together 10 months before I chose to end it. So we saw each other quite frequently.
So dozens of times you were together.
Many dozens of times,
And you were intimate.
Yes.
Many dozens of times. Did he ever use protection?
No. No, I didn't.
Was that something you thought about, or it didn't concern you at the time?
We talked about it right beforehand. He was starting to, and then he's like, I don't like these things, and we discussed things, do you, blah, 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 and we were just honest with each other, and we didn't use any.
And Karen, ultimately, she called it off because wasn't Donald Trump mocking a family member or something like that?
Yeah, I think he called her mother a hag, an old hag, and she said something like, "Well, P.S. You're the same age, so it's not an old hag," and I think he also said something. I guess a friend of hers was dating a person who he called racist names. I think he was black, and Donald Trump didn't like that. So she broke up with him because of that. She didn't like the way he talked about people.
Well, Karen, it will be an eventful day. Where do you think the judge goes with this contempt order? Do you think we hear about that in the morning before court starts? What's your prediction?
Yeah, look, the one thing I'll tell you about Judge Merchan and most of the judges at 100 Center Street where this is happening is they will not keep a jury waiting 1 second. So if all the jurors are there, they'll start the trial and they'll deal with the contempt thing on a break. They are not going to keep jurors waiting. So, but if there's a juror who hasn't showed up yet, or maybe they ask the jury to come at 10 and the parties to come at 9:30, then maybe they'll deal with it at that point. But I suspect we're going to see the judge deal with the contempt proceeding and the gag order violation today. Could be also tomorrow. I don't suspect it goes longer than that. I would be surprised if he doesn't address it today. Could be in writing. And look, there was reports that the corrections department is coordinating with the Secret Service so that in the event that Donald Trump continues to violate the gag order, they're prepared if the judge puts him in. And the judge could put him in for an hour. The judge could put him in for a day. The judge could put him in the judge could make him show up on Wednesdays when there's no court and make him sit on Wednesdays all day. You know, the judge can do many things if he doesn't stop, to compel him to stop. But I think he'll start with imposing fines. That's what I think will happen. And I think you're going to see fines imposed. I think you're going to see a very strong admonishment to the lawyers as well as to the defendant. I think Michael Cohen strategically did something really smart today when he announced that he's no longer going to talk about this, out of respect for the court, out of respect for the proceeding and the judge. Because one of Donald Trump's claims is that he's responding to attacks from Michael Cohen, and that, of course, puts the judge in a very difficult position. So I think it was really smart of Michael Cohen to, again, strategically take that off the table for the judge. And because if Donald Trump keeps attacking him, he can't say it was in response to anything. So we'll see, but the judge needs to keep control of the courtroom. The fact that Donald Trump talked about the jurors and that some of the contempt requests involved the jury, he's going to have to do something about that.
Karen, I want to remind all of our viewers, it's a big audience right now, that in just a little bit, we're going to be having our live feed with the Supreme Court oral argument on Trump's claim of absolute presidential immunity, the case involving Trump's crimes to interfere with and overthrow the results of the 2020 election. So as we have Donald Trump's criminal trial for trying to interfere with the 2016 election, we've got a Supreme Court oral argument taking place, which, remember everybody to watch it live here, our pre-coverage, and then you'll actually be able to hear the full oral argument from the Supreme Court right here on the Midas Touch Network YouTube. It's the best destination to watch it. We have, of course, the top lawyers like Karen Friedman, Agnifilo.
What time are the oral arguments today, Ben? I think it's important that as many people as possible tune in and listen to this really, really important Supreme Court argument that's really going to help define our democracy and determine whether or not presidents are above the law and can't be held criminally responsible. So what do you know what time the argument is?
Yep, it's going to be 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific. So 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific. Our coverage will begin 30 minutes before it starts. So if you're watching on the East Coast, join us around 9:30 a.m. Eastern or 6:30 a.m. Pacific. So really, we're just about a half hour away, Karen, from that starting. So just check out the YouTube feed, go look at the live, click it, and you'll see, I think, Michael Popak, myself, Dina Dahl, the whole crew will pick up the coverage there. Karen, I know you'll be following throughout the day everything happening in the Manhattan criminal trial. So as I mentioned, you have Trump trying to interfere with the 2016 election in a Manhattan criminal trial. Trump trying to interfere with the 2020 election, leading an insurrection, and now claiming that he can order SEAL Team 6 to kill his political opponents just because. He's arguing that before the Supreme Court. And then on the weekends, Donald Trump trying to do the same playbook over and over again with the 2024 election. So, it's all there to see, people. So want to thank all of you for tuning in. Karen, the best legal analyst in the game right here on the Midas Touch Network. We're so lucky that Karen is a host and providing all this information. We're really, really, really very fortunate. And sometimes you even do it in a train and in a cab. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Now check in to the Supreme Court oral argument live. We'll see you soon there. Have a great one. Shout out to Legal AFers. Shout out to the Midas Mighty.
Enough! Send it to the big house, not the White House. Get the new exclusive tees, mugs, and stickers right now at store.midastouch.com. That's